Yes, it's What a Boast, a celebration of Reeves and Mortimer. Please welcome your hosts for this podcast, MJ Price and Paula Wiseman. Hello and welcome to Quite a Boast, a podcast dedicated to the work and genius of Vic Reeves and Bob Mortimer. My name is Matt Price, founder of the Reeves and Mortimer Depository of Curious Stuff Facebook group.
And I am Paula Wiseman, a creator and founder of the Divine Comedians podcast.
Our guest today is an actor, a writer, and one of our greatest character comedians. You'll know him from The Fast Show as Billy Bleach, Dave Angel, Tommy Cockles, Competitive Dad, and Monkfish. You'll know him as Brian Pern, as Big Gary, as Colonel Deadshot, or even as Alf Garnett. But before all of this, he was part of the merry band of players that brought us Vic Reeves' Big Night Out. And today we'll attempt to find out whether those heady days really were marvellous times. Please enter the Novelty Island paddock, Simon Day.
Hey.
Hi, how you doing?
Hey,
Good,
Simon, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good.
Great to have you here.
Fantastic.
Yeah, nice to be here. Sorry
Lovely
if I'm
lovely to see you again. I last
you.
saw you at the on the Fast Show tour.
I saw you about
Ditto,
8
yeah,
times
same
in
here.
a few days. Not that
Well,
I'm making out you're some sort of comedy nutter.
it had to be done, Simon. Do you know what I mean?
Saying nothing.
No, it was all very fast, that Fast Show tour. We didn't know much about it ourselves.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
suddenly it was
they were
upon
saying
us.
it sold out in like 2 hours, didn't it? And it was like,
Yeah, it's weird. I think Paul was saying, oh, maybe we should do a Fast Show tour. And Paul Whitehouse and Paul Roberts were saying, their promoters, they were saying, you know, I don't think it will sell because you're not on telly and blah, blah. But I think with the social media and the sort of internet and the rise of people connecting and looking back at stuff, I think, you know, because it was just, we just did 3 series and it became quite a popular show. I think it sort of held up. But yeah, it did, well, we're going to do a big one next year now. Yeah, bigger one.
Excellent. Same sort of format with the Q&As
Great
and the...
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, I think they designed that partly Paul and Charlie designed that partly because it was easier and partly because they wanted to make more money. They've got to spend more money. But the first one, it cost a fortune. We had a huge, great set made of wood and loads of, you know, makeup girls. And the set was so big, it wouldn't fit in some of the theatres.
wow.
And if you were lucky enough to see that, listeners, it was very... It was a bit Spinal Tap, but it was. Our behaviour was.
So let's go back in time a little bit, Simon. Obviously, you know, people know you for Tommy Cockles and, you know, obviously working with Jim and Bob. But how did it all start for you? What was we know you had a very kind of colourful, your teenage years were quite colourful.
I was 29 and I was kind of you know, didn't really know what I wanted to do in my life. I was sort of black sheep of the family. I was an addict, ADHD, all that stuff. And I was kind of like, what are you going to do? You know, I used to think that I was kind of just existing, really. I just played pool, had a little flat, had jobs for a while, you know, couldn't keep them and so forth. And then Jim and Bob started writing. They started writing at Jules Holland's place. He's got like a recording studio and sort of in an old railway station. And my mate had a fireplace shop where they sold fireplaces, inserts. And he said, you know, I'd just finished this job. I chucked this job in. And he said, what, you know, they're really funny, these guys, but you should write a set and go and do 20 minutes, you know, or go and do something on Vic Reeves' Big Night Out. And I was like, oh, can I, you know, and I'd always been funny and tried to be funny. I was the kid that did sort of Monty Python impressions, not to get beaten up, you know. And we just wrote a set and we rehearsed it, and I didn't have a lot of ideas. And when I started doing it, I used to watch comedy and sort of think I'd like to do that. And I did a set in Sydenham, 20 minutes, and Jim and Bob came, and I'd met them before, you know. And they
did you see them at their like the Big Night Out live shows, like an old video?
And I'd seen them live, and I'd seen them around and about. So all right, you know, and they just went, yeah, smart, you know, you can come on tour with us.
Wow.
Literally, I did that gig and then I went on tour with them. It was mad.
So had you done any stand-up prior to that?
No. I mean, It was just, I can't remember. I then I started doing stand up, and I started doing Tommy Cockles on his own because I entered the Hackney New Act of the Year, and then everyone said that's your best character, and that was held, and the final was held in a musical, so it works out very well for me. That was a bit later because I won that in '93,
right?
Which it was a big deal in those days. The
Time
Act of the Year was a big deal. Kevin Eldon was third, and Alistair McGowan was second. So you were in quite a company there, and but yeah, so I just went on tour with them, and suddenly I'm on a tour bus with them and all their mates. They're sort of motley crew of friends who basically were all sort of arty people that lived in Crossfields, which was a sort of hard to let estate. So it was either middle class dropouts or very, sort of rough people drinking and whatever. So it was kind of, and then they'd been sort of galvanized by Jim. Jim had come to Goldsmiths and he started performing there, and all these people had sort of met him, and he had Les doing the chives, and he had another guy saying, "You got balls for beer." He was kind of, it was kind of revolution down there, and the more you think about it, the odder it is. It's like me going up to sort of Middlesbrough and starting a sort of Cockney comedy night. And loads of people from Middlesbrough sort of became my friend. And then the more you think about it, the crazier it is.
It's crazy.
They were literally they were right in the heart of southeast London. They played a place called, what was it called? It was a wine bar. And the two people had been murdered in there. One had been with a shotgun and someone else had been battered or something. And they went and did, I saw it, they went and stand up there one night. And then all these blokes with Fred Perry's on watching them going, "Would you pass me the peas, please?" And I thought they were going, "You're shit, mate," and all that. And he was going, "You're entitled to your opinion." But that was Jim. He was totally fearless, completely fearless. He never did that. He didn't have that bad gig, analyze bad gig thing that most comics have and think about it for 2 weeks. He just was like, he just didn't care.
I always find it amazing that you assume, if you didn't know them, they would have travelled down to London together. But for two guys who'd met in London from the same part of the world with a very similar mindset and an idea of comedy, to me, that's amazing.
That was the story. Bob used to heckle him on the Big Night Out. Big Night Out used to be 3 hours long, and it was kind of insane, And when Bob got involved in it, he was the one that sort of gave it a bit more structure and sorted it out a bit and said, "This is too long," and maybe, and various bits and bobs went, and he made it more. I think he sort of made it more palatable, and shorter and less sort of rambling.
Yeah. So I mean, when was Tommy Cockles born? I mean, how did he even come into
that? Came from, I used to watch those stuff, like all actors and comics or wannabe. You always used to watch those tributes to people who died, and there was always one bloke who you didn't recognise. You have Bruce Forsyth and Tarby and all these people, and you'd have one bloke who you had no idea who he was, but he would sort of impress on the camera that he was really good friends with the guy. He'd call him by his first name, or he'd abbreviate his first name. He'd go, "Well, me and Mitch, I remember once in Surrey, and you go, who is this bloke? He's never done anything." And so it was based on that. It was based on a sort of zen figure who'd worked with everyone, but you didn't really know who he was.
Yeah. And
I just juxtaposed the sort of modern references with the musical. And so you've got your ridiculous caricature. So and that caught on very quickly. I think because it was quite gentle and nice and wordy.
Tell me another on Talking Pictures. Are you aware of that program, which is from the 70s, I think, presented by Dick Hills? And you've got all the stars of the day, but not the big stars. You got, I don't know.
Right. What's it called?
Tell Me Another. And it is anecdotes. Yeah, I think you can get on DVD as well. It's anecdotes. You've got Miriam Carlin, followed by Diana Dawes, followed by Barry Took or something, or Jim Dale, and they're all coming on telling their showbiz anecdotes. Brilliant. And as Tommy Cockles does, it's all, in those days, and every sentence starts like that. It's superb. And I can imagine Tommy being on that.
Well, I say that now. It's sad, but you start saying that as you get older.
Yeah. There's some fascinating footage on YouTube of you on Jules Holland's The Happening, which I think is like 91.
Yes.
And you come on, it's like a Bob Geldof Bono type character? You like with an Irish
No,
accent?
that was it's Carnage. That was I got a feeling that was one of the things. Jim and Bob used to suggest things. I'd come up with stuff and they would go, "Yeah, that's really funny," but they didn't really not seem to know what was actually funny and would be funny to the audience, or what was just what they found funny.
Yeah.
And they were notorious for that. And they'd go, "Just chat boiled onions," and go on the stage. I remember doing that, and Gilson Lavis, the drumming squeeze, just looking at me going like that. But yeah, they would often do that. You come in a room, in a hotel room on the toilet, they burst out laughing. You say something, they burst out laughing, and you'd say, "Oh, that was just a normal sentence." And other times you'd do stuff and they wouldn't laugh. So they had a very sort of acute angle on stuff. But I mean, it was incredible. It was the best. It was like the best time of my life, because I'd literally gone from being landscape gardener, unemployed, with no future, to suddenly on tour with the sort of hottest comedians in the country. And they were like, "This guy's really funny," and they would go to TV people. "This guy is the future." They were brilliant to me. They were so good. They were very good. The same with Matt Lucas and
You got Angelos,
yes.
Dan Skinner, and
yes,
yeah. Tony Wade, lots of people. Nearly everyone we've spoken to is how loyal they are
to bringing people
to their mates. Yeah. So you made some appearances on the TV show as well, on the Big Night Out.
Yeah, I did little bits and bobs on that. I can't remember what I did. I remember shuffling on with Charlie Hickson with a bowler hat.
I think it's you and Mark. Is that your friend from the time, Mark Swan?
Yeah, Mark Swan. Yeah, he was the guy that wrote a lot of stuff for me.
I think the three of you come on as undertakers and do like a little round, shuffle on and do a round of applause. That's right.
Yeah, we always hung around the show when it was being done, you know.
Yeah, and you think you're an American family, a father of an American family as well on one episode.
Yeah, I remember that now. Yeah.
With Judge Nutmeg.
Judge Nutmeg, yeah.
You were always billed as Tommy Cockles on those really early shows in the credits. Was that the name you were?
I don't know why. Yeah, that was Jim claims to have invented Tommy Cockles' name. I don't know if he did. He claims that he was walking past my hotel room and he put two names under the door. One was Peter Peanut, and one was Tommy Cockles. But I'm pretty sure, 99% sure, me and Mark Swan came up with Tommy Cockles.
And the second live show, I think, the second live tour you went out on, I think, which is on the not
Brown
DVD,
tour.
would have been a VHS tape back then.
The Brown tour. Yeah, they were quite nutty those nights, because everyone was standing, and it was, Manchester, and people would throw beer on them, and they'd throw bits of meat at them, because that was part of their thing, meat. But people would throw chops at them, and it would get quite sort of. It wasn't like a normal comedy gig. It was very sort of raucous.
Yeah.
And often when on the first tour, when they found out I wasn't sort of northern or part of the show, often I would die as Tommy Cockles. Often I come on, it would be half time, and they'd say, "Here's Tommy Cockles," and they would sort of go, "What's this?" And because it was quiet, they wouldn't really go for it. And I died a good few times, but after that, I wasn't really scared of anything. So it was a sort of baptism of fire.
I always saw the connection between Vic and Bob and Tommy Cockles when you first emerged. To me, it's very similar. As you say, there's the old time variety references.
You're influenced by Monty Python and Peter Cook.
Yeah, definitely.
And then you've watched all the sitcoms. For me, that's what I was anyway. I've watched all these brilliant sitcoms with fantastic characters like Mannering and Frasier and Fletcher, and you'd watched. I always wanted to do characters. I always found them fascinating. So, plus, as Bob used to say, Tom, put the ginger wig on, you get on TV.
Yeah.
Plus, I've seen Harry Enfield. And he'd got on telly, and I kind of was skint. I didn't particularly want to be a stand-up. I didn't like. No one really liked. Stand-up's great when it goes well, but it's hard work. And I did see myself as someone as a TV performer. And that came true very quickly. I visualized my future, rather like someone on Instagram. But yeah, it was like a fairy tale, absolutely. Because but Bob sort of. It was always said, me and you didn't know what we were doing, we just sort of lucked in. But there is a degree of truth in that,
So was that where you met, where you sort of hooked up with Charlie and Paul? Was that the first time you met?
Yeah, they used to come to they used to come to Up the Creek and watch Jim and Bob, and Charlie was producing Jim and Bob, I think, or writing. And they said that the multiple words. Paul said, we're doing a show one day with loads of catchphrases. You'd be good in it. That's literally how the Fast Show was born, you know. And then one day they rang up officially and said, you know, rang my agent and said, "Do you want to come and do a rehearsal?" And there are all these scripts everywhere.
Before we move on to the big night out, I think we should just salute the character of Gary Cheesy Cheeseman that you played during the live show.
Well, he kept using me every night, and you know, obviously, listen, I had no problem with them. I was so lucky to be doing it. It wasn't like I wanted, but he would sort of abuse me every night and go, "We've got Cheeseman here, you ginger get," and everyone would go, "Yeah," and I thought, maybe it was partly anger, but I thought one night I didn't warn him. I just went, "Hush up, man, we had to talk to," and all that. Yeah, and he didn't know it was coming, so he was just sort of shocked. So, but they left it in because they thought it was funny. Yeah. It was nice to get, you know, to finish the sketch.
I think after the big night out, on the smell, I think you only appear the once as a milkman in the Bra Man sketch. And they're in the Weekenders as a slow policeman.
The Weekenders, they used my character on the trailer. Everyone thought I got my own series. I kept saying I'm only in it for about 3 seconds.
Yeah. You say "stop thief," I think that's your line.
Yeah.
Phone
Paul's
didn't
brilliant
stop ringing.
Paul's superb in that as the bus driver. White has, yeah. But I suppose that sort of period was when they were doing the smell, is when you were starting with Saturday Zoo and starting work with John Thompson.
Yeah, I started doing Saturday Zoo, which was a live show, filmed live, and it was a bit crazy, you know, which, as I said on the Fast Show tour, ADHD and live TV don't go very well. And you know, they didn't really know what they were doing there. They had loads of characters and loads of bands and Jonathan Ross and Roland, and they just hoped to do a Saturday Night Live. And there were some great bits on it, but there were also a lot of confusion. There was one week we did a sort of a pagan theme, and we all came on. Someone came on as the chalk giant, and I was the front half of a pantomime horse. And I was talking the way to someone at the back. There was a guy behind me, you know, being the back end of the horse, and he was picking his legs up and all that. And I just basically forgot to put the horse's head on. And as we started the second half, Jonathan said, "Here they come," you know. And I just walked out without the horse's head. And he went, "Have you forgotten something?" And I went, "Yeah." That was live TV.
You worked with John Thompson. Was that Saturday Zoo?
I don't know. I sort of met him through. We were all hanging around together, Coogan and John. I'd met at a live gig, and we'd become friends. And he moved to South East London, so I sort of knew him. We were mates. We knocked around together a lot. You know, played pinball a lot and hung out together. Yeah, when we were going to be a double act, and we know, you know, we both, none of us are right. Neither of us have got any sort of discipline, so that never really happened. But he was funny because John was already he always did loads of voiceovers, so he always earned loads of money, and everyone else was quite poor. And he also was doing the Coogan stuff and the Fast Show stuff, and he was quite in demand.
Yeah,
he was a lot younger than I was.
So did your life change overnight with the Fast Show?
Well, it didn't change overnight, but it was very successful. I mean, you know, it took the second series. In fact, the first series, you know, they were a bit umming and ahhing about it. And it was Jeffrey Perkins, God rest his soul, who said to the BBC, "Look, this is good. You've got to stick with it. These guys really know what they're doing. You know, it's a bit different. That's why it's not, you know, all things that are good are a bit different at first. People don't really understand, but stick with it." By the second series, it sort of got reached its stride, you know, and then in those days, there were only 4 channels. So it was a lot easier to get a sketch show over and catchphrases and so forth.
Yeah. No, I think it was Charlie was saying that it was Jeffrey basically came up with the concept of the Fast Show, putting lots of short sketches together.
Yeah, I didn't know it was Jeffrey. I know they had watched a montage of Harry Enfield clips, and they were all shortened, and they went, "This is funnier than the long bits, you know, we should just do this catchphrase and out." And now we've got TikTok.
Yeah. You're not wrong.
God help us all.
Yours and Caroline's were probably my favourites, because the comedy monologues, the comedy characters doing monologues has always been my thing.
Yeah, but the weird thing is that I didn't really sort of do it as the Fast Show. Mark, who's been clever and a trained actor, they said it's called the Fast Show, and he went away and went, "Right, catchphrase and out." But whereas I just sort of crowbarred my stand-up characters into it, so they were longer. You know, when really, if you look at my stuff like Billy Bleach, they're kind of like bits out of Only Fools and Horses or whatever. They're kind of they're heavily influenced by all that sorts of stuff, you know. But I mean, they are sketches. They are sketches, you know.
Dave Angel, what a character.
Yeah,
You know,
Dave Angel was the most popular character I've ever done, and
I love
I don't
him.
know why I never did a sitcom with him. That was again the juxtaposition of who really wouldn't care about global warming. Someone who did it, you know. And I'd read Mike Reed's book Triffic, and I thought he was just such a funny character, you know. And I thought he was a great character, but what could you sort of juxtapose it with? And I thought global warming would be really funny, him being obsessed with global warming, and it lo and behold, it worked.
Bob had some involvement in the Fast Show, didn't he? He even helped write the Swiss Tony.
We just did a Fast Show tour, and I didn't realise he wrote all the dirty stuff in Swiss Tony.
Yeah, Charlie was saying he's absolutely filthy.
He is, yeah. But I don't think he is anymore. He's too old, but he certainly was quite.
Not on the riverbank.
He was the sort of person that would come up and whisper something in your ear while smoking. I mean, God, they both had heart attacks. I'm not surprised. I mean, he was, you know, Bob lived it. He was like chain smoked. I never saw him. He'd go, we'd always say, "What's your favourite dinner?" And everyone would go, "Oh, I love Quaglinos," or "I love sushi." Bob would be like, "For me, Tom, Frère Pie, one of the worst mates, not the chicken, which is too bad, but and he would have that, but then he would fry potatoes in the gravy and the tin carrots. Yeah, so yeah, I think he was quite lucky, and he's changed completely since he's had that heart treatment. He's completely changed.
Yeah, he's only down to 6 sugars in his tea now.
Probably. Yeah.
So, I mean, what was your process for writing for the Fast Show, Simon?
Well, I've worked it out now. It's because I've got chronic ADHD, which I found through my son. Well, I went with my son for his test, and I was going, "Oh, that's me. And that's the character. There should be a new character. Bloke who takes his kid to be tested for autism, and he's going, "Yeah, that's me. It's me." And it was literally like that. And I've realised that that's why I'm good at sketches, because I cannot, I keep chastising myself for never having written all this stuff. I look back on my career and go, "You could have done this, you could have done that." But I have got chronic ADHD, and if I'm with a Reese, or I can do it. He'll be typing, but I'm 4 hours absolute maximum working with someone else on my own in 10 minutes. And those builder sketches I did recently online, I didn't even write those down. I just thought of them and did them. And I do have that. It's a big problem for me that I cannot sit still. I remember Steve Coogan saying, way back. Well, when I got this job, I realised that I would have to sit in an office for 5 days a week, to write, to be successful. I just thought, well, that's exactly why I got into it, so I wouldn't actually do that. The thought of that was kind of I just thought, I can't do that. When I see offices now, I just see them on telly. To me, it just talks to the little cubicles with the photos, and I mean, I've done jobs like that, but I didn't last long, obviously.
It's that weird balance, I suppose, isn't it, between performing and writing?
You have to. Writing is good and it's fun. If you don't do any at all, you start to get sort of annoyed with yourself. So I do try and do more and more now. I've learned now that I need to work with other people.
Next time I think we saw you with Vic and Bob was Randall and Hopkirk, which you did an episode.
Yeah, I did an episode of that. God, that was years ago with Amelia Fox.
And you're a hapless assassin.
They were probably worried about that. Bob was worried about it because they weren't trained actors, And I think, I think he got 11 million viewers or whatever.
Yeah.
It was Saturday night, but it was Charlie. Charlie was behind that.
Was that one of your first straight, for want of a better word, acting jobs?
Well, I can't remember what I did in that. What did I do in it?
You're an assassin. You've got a catchphrase in it. Right. You say "so to speak" after everything you say.
Oh, I was going to say, I did a few of those, and I was in Heartbeat playing a hiker, and I found out doing bits of acting, and I didn't get. You sort of do the Fast Show, and you immediately think you're going to be cast in a Mike Leigh film, but it doesn't really work like that. And I did bits in here, but I didn't. I found that unless I could change it, or I wasn't particularly good at it. Doing. I didn't really know because I'd never had any training or big drama school. Didn't really know what I was doing a lot of times. later on you get a character and it's, it's a bit funny and you used to work your way around it. I'm fine now, but at first I was a bit sort of puzzled by it all. Because the Fast Show was the first time I'd ever done, and hitting marks and all that sort of stuff, and it was all completely new to me.
I think you kill Reese Thomas in Randall Hopkirk by mistake. You're aiming for Bob and he jumps up and you shoot him.
I'll have to have a look at that.
Yeah. Before we move on from the Fast Show, we better talk about the Fast Show / Shooting Stars live shows that you did in Hammersmith.
Oh man, epic.
And we've spoken to Charlie and Matt and Ulrika about those, and they seem to be, the consensus seems to be that Vic and Bob wanted to go on first and get theirs out of the way, and that was very a manic show, just so they could go backstage and get drunk, and then the Fast Show came on and we're all professional.
But it turned out to be a wrong move for them, because I think it was difficult to do that live, that show. It was a studio-based show, but it was fine. People liked it, but the Fast Show was much more geared towards, a live audience and catchphrases, hey, so it was, that we were all at it in those days, it was that's the thing, it was a lot of beer and fun and messing about, really.
Yeah.
And dealing with people, having to deal with Mark Ryle. No, don't. Yeah, it was good. It was good laugh. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just amazing to have these two shows, collide in one live show. It was just amazing.
On top of each other. But it obviously sold a lot of tickets at the time. And then Little Britain, I think Little Britain came on and sold one night more. Yeah, just to sort of show us,
Yeah.
But it was good. It was crazy. It was a crazy time. You go backstage and be talking to someone say that's the boss of BBC One, or whatever, and then you think, oh shit, I shouldn't have said what I just said to him. There was a portal cabin, I remember, at the back there. All I remember is I lived miles away. I was in South East London. I always had to get a cab home. It was a long way. It was tough, but I managed it.
Let's say there was heady days, those 1990s. That was the days of Loaded and TF5 Friday.
Yeah, James Brown came along.
Yeah,
I saw him the other day, actually. Yeah, he was very much around. He came on the tour with us, James Brown, and he was very much promoted Jim and Bob, and he was Northern as well. Bobby Strigoi, he's terrifying, Tom. He's so real. And he was quite a sort of forceful character.
Yeah,
and I remember him telling me, I'm going to start a magazine, like a new men's magazine. I was like, really? Why? It's just, he said, all I know is it's not going to be full of adverts for shoes and loads of cars in it. And I was like, okay, yeah, fair enough. And then the next thing you know, he done Loaded. But
yeah, I've still got my tour T-shirt from the Shooting Stars Fast Show.
Oh, good. Hang on to it.
I will. It'd be worth some quids in a few years, hopefully.
Hopefully.
You were on Shooting Stars yourself on the TV version a few years later, I think, like the Will Self, Johnny Vegas years.
Yes.
With Jordan, Katie Price on your team.
Yeah, I remember Katie Price. We had little chats. We were face to face with each other. And there was one very funny moment where at the start of it all, she said at some point, she said, you're all talking. Jim said something, sort of semi-rude to her. She said, you wouldn't like it if it jumped up and bit you or something like that. And everyone was a bit sort of taken aback. But she seemed all right then. I had quite a laugh with her. But I remember that they did Shooting Stars, and they would have these big sort of conversations about who would work and who wouldn't. You'd be able to parody and would work, and who would be too self-knowing as a celebrity, to be honest. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
And they'd go, and Bob would be going, you'd go, Jim Bowen, yes. No. I just remember them talking about it. But people forget about that show. It was a big show.
Oh, they got away with murder, didn't they, with some of the guests?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, to be fair, the way some of the comments towards Katie Price on that episode, they wouldn't do today.
Yeah, well, no.
yeah.
Dirty.
But I always think when you've got comedians like yourself on there, especially when you were friends and colleagues of theirs, you knew when to keep quiet and let Jim and Bob just do their thing and sit back. Whereas the other more light entertainment celebrities would try and get involved, and it wouldn't always work.
Yeah, I mean, it was great working with Jim and Bob, but yeah, I know exactly what you mean. There was a time when it was all messing about. And after the Fast Show, I didn't really see so much of them. It was they were off doing their stuff, and I was sort of doing that. So because we used to live near each other, and then obviously we all moved. But once they moved to Kent, I didn't see as much of them.
They also appear in Brian Pern, Life of Rock, as Mulligan and O'Hare. I don't think you're in the same scenes with them, but there's a couple of the talking heads.
Brilliant, and they were fantastic as that.
Yeah,
and Peter Gabriel said that was his favourite part of it. Which I took to mean that he hated me doing him. But as Eric Clapton said, he has to like it, doesn't he? Because someone said, I wonder if he likes it. And me and Eric Clapton, I'm not named him, we were in the same group. We both went, he has to, because he does. He can't go, this is fucking shit,
Yeah.
He has to sort of go along with it, but it probably annoyed him a bit. Luckily, it wasn't a huge hit. So it didn't really, he didn't have a lot of people coming to him in the street, I'm sure, and saying, oh, that Brian Pern thing, isn't it? When Reese, because I was a bit embarrassed by it all, but Reese sort of wrote it all and said, look, you just be him. And then one day Reese said, oh, let's go and see Peter Gabriel. So we're going to go meet him backstage. And I was always a massive fan of his. I didn't like Genesis, but I loved Peter Gabriel. And we sort of went back and met him, and he was really tall. For some reason, I thought he'd be sort of short, because the picture on the front cover of So, he's very sort of good looking. And I thought he was my height, and I was like, all right. I remember I had some crisps. I dropped my crisps. And in nerves, and he went, you, like that, jokingly. But he was great fun, and he agreed to be on the show. So he must have thought it was fun. And we didn't really. It was affectionate,
That was a great show. Reese is just a genius, I think.
I don't know how he did it all. I mean, he did it. He did the whole thing and made it all look so. It's a small budget as well. It was a genius.
It must have taken a while to do, because there's a lot of live performances and TV performances.
Live performances, and we had no money, so everything had to be filmed. We'd have one day to film stuff, to film a whole concert thing, and there was no time and no budget, and he put his own money into a lot of it. Sometimes it really was that thing, and he had to grade the film and then edit it. He did it. Reese is one of those people that just goes, "Oh, I'll do it. You go home," and then finds out he's got to work all through the night, partly because he's a control freak, but partly also because he knows that if he does it, it will be exactly how he wants it.
Yeah.
And it was, I'm really proud of that. It was amazing.
So what you got coming up next, Simon?
Well, it's a couple of things I'm writing, which I can't talk about. They say that not that they're a secret, but I sort of think it's bad luck to talk about. I'm writing something with Paul about football. When he gets round to it, because he's doing so many different things. He's like Paul. You see him and you have a cup of tea with him, and he goes, he goes, I've just taken a kid to the dentist. And suddenly a new program appears on television, and he's in it. And you're like, what? You didn't tell me about that. He went, oh, yeah. Because one person said the wrong thing to me, and that was the guy, Simon Thingy, who does the Meerkat voiceovers, Simon Greenall. And he's always saying to me, I wish I was you, because you're famous. And every other comedian wants to be him, because he's got about 10 million quid. No one knows who it is. And
simple.
He said, that should have been you. In front of about 10 people reading that show. It's out of order. That should have been you. And I was kind of like, no, don't be silly. And then I started thinking about it, because prior to it, Paul kept saying, I'll take you fishing. I'll take you fishing, And as Reece said, he did have a heart attack, so how's it going to be? But if it had been me and Paul, again, we can't write together. We need another writer. When we meet up, we're such good friends, and we just sort of talk. And Paul can't write without Charlie, You need to have your half man, half desk thing. And if it had been me and him, it would have been really depressing, because we would have just both been going, yeah. And Bob is brilliant. I mean, because he does that enthusiasm. I mean, how much of that is completely real? I don't know, but it really works. Oh, Paul, let's catch a fish. That's me being cynical, probably. But it does really work, because Paul is a quiet person, and he goes, he has a very complicated life, and he goes to fish to be quiet, And it just really works, the two of them together. And I never thought it would work. And I don't think anyone ever thought there'd be a double act.
They didn't even themselves, did they? They didn't think
I never thought it would work, But it looks easy, that. You go, I'll do one of those shows. Me and John did one, and we had a great time. But there's something that has to come over. That And I think it was the heart attack thing is really good because they both are kind of reborn as people. Because prior to, when you have something like that happen, you do start thinking, well, every day, let's live it as my last. You know, and I know, and Bob, I know, you know, Bob was not in a good place. I mean, I didn't realise how bad until I read his book that he was in health-wise, you know.
They should have got you in for that Lee Mack episode.
Yeah, well, they kept promising to get Charlie in it, but then he couldn't do it because of COVID. But, you know, it works fine as it is. But it's really weird also for Paul to be doing one of those shows because he would never do one of those. He would always go, you've got two celebrities going around the country eating dinner. Not for me. Yeah. So it's quite funny. But he generally does love fishing. He absolutely loves it. I've been sea fishing with him, and we had a really good time out in Costa Rica. The ADHD, he thinks that I couldn't sit on a riverbank. I mean, you know, luckily, same with Bob, who's falling over all the time.
Yeah. And then he's off with Only Fools and Horses again on tour after that, I think.
He's stopping our Far Show tour. Because we'd be doing that, but he's doing Fools and Horses. But I don't think he's doing all of them. I think because it's such a long tour, I think he's got an understudy. So check the theatre, people.
Check your theatre listings.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I was saying back then, I'm hoping that you'll come over to Dublin to bring the Fast Show over here because I mean,
I think we will if we do.
I think you really, really should.
We want, you know, we want to do Wales and Ireland and all that because I've always had really good gigs in Ireland. Belfast was good as well. Anywhere that's kind of had a tough time, the crowds are brilliant, and it's like going up north. You know, they were all going, "Oh, Stoke, what's it going to be like?" I said it'd be brilliant because you know they're just like we want to have a good time, help us enjoy ourselves. Whereas you know, London is a bit more.
Yeah.
Well, but the crowd were totally up for it on the Fast Show.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was just great for me because I'm used to touring on my own, which is I've come to a sort of, you know, it's like. It's quite miserable touring on your own. You know what I mean? You're on your own and you go to the theatre. I don't drink anymore, so you do the gig. The gig's brilliant, but then you're like, you know, I've got 2 kids. You'd rather be at home. But with that, you've got your mates there, you know, and it was all hotels were paid for. And whenever I do a tour, I basically stay in a hotel vastly outside the budget of how much I'm taking on the door. So we get the bill at the end of the tour. It's like I'm like Joan Collins or something. I go expenses and then the net receipts, and they're like, "Well, you're down about $2,000. Why did you stay in the 4-star hotel?" Blah blah. So yeah, I'm not very good at that sort of stuff. But yeah, it was really good fun. I'm looking forward to the next one. I think we'd all like to go straight away, but Paul's very busy, and Mark's doing Father Brown.
Yeah, well, you've got to have a bit of luxury on tour, haven't you? Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, otherwise you're miserable, isn't it? I can't be doing travel like this.
But your live shows as yourself, I think, I don't want to blow smoke, but I don't think I've laughed more than watching Billy Bleach, especially Billy Bleach, but Tommy as well. But
yeah, I like doing Billy Bleach, and he's good live. It's kind of a persona that I feel very comfortable in, you know, and yeah, it's good to do him live. Talking about doing a tour at the moment with someone else and maybe doing something new. The trick is just to get it out there and people to find out you're on tour, because the more you spend on advertising, the less you take. You know what I mean? The trouble is there's so many people touring now that everyone wants to tour because there's no more telling.
And everyone's planning ahead as well. I know a lot of comedians are planning into. I know I've got like Jack D. I think next year is touring at the end of 2025.
Yeah,
a lot of planning involved.
Yeah, guys,
I think it's just amazing that your career started literally with Vic and Bob on your first night on a stage.
Without them, I've always said it, I wouldn't be here. I don't know where I'd be. And it was just an absolute miracle to start with them. And you know, it's just suddenly I was on a tour bus with these 2 weird blokes going, "Oh, that's not the Cairngorms, that's the Gorns," and all that. And Jim with his strange sort of knowledge of testing people on the household birds. It was a great deal about Jim. He'd always get off with the best looking girl because he was the star, you know. But rather than sort of plying them with fine wines and chocolates, he would take them back and play them Robin Trower and go through a book of household birds and say, "Which test me on those birds." You know, you always see these sort of girls at breakfast slightly sort of puzzled because then sort of he is a genuine one-off. Obviously, I'm exaggerating. That's not true. I'm sure he was, you know, like Sean Connery in his day. But what I'm saying is, he is who he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Simon, thanks so much for joining us. That was
No worries.
Quadabost.
No, it's really good to talk
Thank
about
you.
it.
We absolutely love what you do, Simon, so keep doing it.
I will do. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for listening to this edition of Quadabost. Special thanks to Matt Lucas for permission to use the Peanuts music as our theme tune, and thanks to Ed Lewis for this edit. Thank you to Jake Chesham for permission to use the photo from his 1995 shoot of Jim and Bob in our various online locations for the podcast. And of course, thank you very much to Jim Moyer and Bob Mortimer, without whom this podcast, well, it just wouldn't exist, would it? Remember to check out Paula's Divine Comedians podcast as well, and to join the Reeves Mortimer Depository of Curious Stuff Facebook group. And I think you'll agree that really was a lot of fun. Goodbye.